Hello, headphone mixers. My name is Paul Third, and that man across from me is Emrah Celik, award-winning mix and mastering engineer with over 3 billion streams to his name, with over 90% of those mixes being done on headphones. Would you believe it? Right. So this week we have another headphone review for you. Now, this is one that we've been asked a lot to do because this headphone is currently, well, in the UK, it's £180. Like, we are talking proper budget here. Very, very, very affordable price. And it comes in the form of the FIIO FT1 Pro. It's open back. There is a closed variation. I think it's just the FT1 is the closed.
That's dynamic as well.
Yeah. The FT1 is dynamic. The FT1 Pro is open back and it's planar. So it's planar magnetic. Now, it was Emrah that told me that, bro, you need to listen to this because for the price, Emrah does genuinely believe that there isn't many headphones out there that can match this for the price. Now, as always, I always do a mix on any headphone that I personally review, so I have done a mix on here, and you are going to be able to hear the results. It'll be on my website or on the Working Audio Tools podcast. So, in regards to frequency response, Emrah, you're always a bit better than me at that. So, talk a little bit about the frequency response.
Pretty much tuned to optimum hi-fi response because it's not designed for people who has to mix on headphones, right?
Yeah.
But we can convert it to something pretty useful for headphone mixers. You're just gonna have to lift the low end a little bit and take down a little bit bump on the 300 hertz. They don't have the dynamic strain, the low end roll off and stuff like that. It's just linear sub frequency they can hear, and that's pretty good. And the amount of stuff you get within the package, you get balance cable. That balance cable by own is like 50 quid or something.
Yeah, I know. Thought that.
You get a hard case. Maybe you can show on the screen.
Yeah.
And you get secondary cable and adapter. Yeah, it's a complete package under $200. It's incredible, and the sound is incredible for the price.
Yeah, and bear in mind, Emrah is always saying for the price. This is something that we have to be very, very, very careful about. Yeah. So, right, in regards to comfort, Emrah, because that is always, I don't want to glaze over that. What do you feel comfort-wise in comparison to, say, Sony MDR MV1s and the R70XA? How do these kind of compare?
Yeah, they are just, I guess they are slightly over 350 grams, and that's pretty okay for planar magnet. If you're using Audis, for example.
Oh, yeah, look at neck brace.
They're soft, they're okay with the weight, and everything is metal. The movement of the ear cups are perfect. It's, soft. There's no clamp force too much. But the comfort-wise, okay, they are not the comfort level of the Verum one, MDR MD1, and the
R70X.
R70X we just recently reviewed. I see some people recommend that extra stripe here, but it doesn't necessarily.
Yeah, I mixed on them for like a few hours. Again, I took like quite a lot of breaks and stuff, still, as you always should. But I did find that I wasn't getting any headaches from them. Like with these, I was saying to Emrah, like before we hit record, the problem that I've got with the Sandara closed, I never used them for mixing. It was only for tracking purposes. But I always advise the Sandara open back, but not the closed back for mixing. But with these, I've got to have these a little bit looser fit-wise, because if I've got them too tight, they give me a sore head. After about like 20-25 minutes, it's like a spot on my head. It's like it pulses and it's like it heats up or whatever, and I just kind of get this headache at the top of my head, which is obviously very important, right, to think about when you're mixing on headphones. So I didn't have any comfort issues. Build-wise, I have to agree with Emrah. I think, again, it's a metal construction. And in terms of everything that comes in the case, I was like really surprised. Because like when Audio-Technica sent theirs, like you open the box and you're like, there's not even a case for the headphones. You're like, what? Come on, this may be flagship. And you've got a fucking FT1 Pro, like FIIO fucking giving you like all the works and stuff. Especially a balanced cable, because I don't know many, even Hyphaman, like I think Is it only the expensive hyphomins that come with a balance cable?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, to do it at that price, it's crazy.
We forget to mention that they are pretty easy to drive for being a planar magnet. So they don't need a high power amp or something like that.
Yeah, I can concur. Even though I use the Mojo from Cord, I use the Mojo 2 from Cord when I do portable mixing, and yeah, it's not really that necessary with the FT1 Pro. I was able to power them decently with my MacBook Pro. And
Yeah,
the
I could
DX1
power
as well.
them.
Top end,
DX1 with
£100.
$80.
Yeah. Yeah. As it went down in prices, $80 now.
Yeah, 84, 80.
Wow,
Sometimes.
Jesus.
Dollars.
Yeah, that's crazy. Jesus. Yeah, so like you can power them like affordably. But yeah, so we've talked about frequency response, we've talked about comfort, we've talked about drive. We don't have any distortion measurements, Emrah, do we? That's the only thing that we don't have. But what was your distortion test? What did they come out like?
We actually have distortion
Oh, do we?
level. Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
okay.
They are clean.
Right, we'll
They're
leave
clean.
it. Okay, I'll
But-
swipe out and we'll
Yeah,
and I'll have them here.
The technology they have is 0.0001 millimeters. You know,
Yeah.
the thickness of the drivers, the planar drivers. But there is one issue that we didn't talk about. It's on the build quality. You see maybe I can show you. You see the claps here.
Yep.
Sometimes the screw here can break.
Oh,
Or just
right, okay.
you open up the package and you can see it's already broken, but they already fixed it. They was just a batch, production error,
Right,
manufacturing error. So if you already fixed it, but if you happen to get the older batches, you can just write, send email to FIIO and they will send you a spare pair of screwdrivers that you can just simply screw and they are new again.
So we've covered that. It's time to cover the most important bit, Emrah, the mix translation. How do they sound and how do they translate? What was your opinion in regards to sound and translation?
Yeah, I have mixed on them. I have mastered on them quite a lot song. The translation was good to me. You can reach the level that the song is ready to be released, right? Because I mixed and mastered the same song on them, and sounds was great. So I can approve as an engineer that they translate, but the EQ we can show on the screen.
Yeah. So what happened with me was that Emrah had two EQs. He had one EQ that you had originally, and he had what would we call this more of an experimental
Experimental, because I was just
Yeah.
testing something.
Yeah. So I used the experimental one, and that I think it was more of the 110 hertz 2 dB bump. It added too much bass sustain to me. Now I'm very sensitive to bass sustain, and what I did was I kind of ended up making the bass sustain less. You can do that with Emrah's own plugin Bass Shaper. Actually, I'll tell you right now, I used nearly all of Emrah's plugins, like a shameless plug there. But yeah, for Bass Shaper, I always find that if the bass is a little bit too much, I'll either use deboom, or again, he's got sustain. You can kind of take down the sustain of the bass. And I felt like I needed to do that because with that EQ, I felt that the reference I was working to was a bit too boomy. But then when I checked the translation on other devices, I kind of thinned out the low end a little bit. However, here's the good thing, right? I'll give you the good points for the translation. I've not done many hip hop in my time, but I got the chance to do a hip hop mix from a client. Now, for me, I find that low end extension, great. With Emrah's EQ that I ended up using to fix my first mix. Again, I'll put a quick reminder on the screen here for you. With that EQ, I just found there was enough bit of a low end boost, just a little bit of a tuck in the low end, and again, just small little moves. And for me, you might go, oh, that 10K there. You don't need that. That's a very, very sharp Q. Now, when you did your EQ, Emrah, you used B&K, am I right? Or was it Grass? I want to say it was B&K you used.
B&K and Grass, I always check both.
Yeah.
Because
now,
the high end is different.
Yeah. Now, see in the B&K, that 10K dip was in the B&K as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, many people will notice that we've spoke about it before in my EQ video, that in grass measurements, it's got an inherent 10K dip. It's just what is in the measurement rig. And you don't get that in B&K. So if you see the 10K dip in B&K, then you actually know that there actually is like a resonance dip in there. For me, I found that little 10K notch actually worked for me when I was thinking about the top end of snares and stuff. Because what's very, very important to understand is that, especially if you think about your 10K, you think about the top end of your snares, that's part of your microdynamics. So I always find it, again, for just judging the very top end of transients, I find that 10K is really important. I can understand why they did it, because they've not made it for audio engineers. It still is like an audiophile headphone.
Yeah, they are smooth, right? They are
very smooth.
On top end, very smooth. Because we need that aggressiveness for microdynamics.
Correct. And that's what I find interesting when I talk about headphones like, the Sennheisers. Like we talked about the 650s, and it was very controversial. And we were saying that the HD 600s and the 650s and the 490s, they're just too forgiving for us. They're too forgiving, and I find that the FIIOs are a little bit too forgiving for me. So when I did the first mix, I kind of made the mix a little bit too mid-rangey, and I didn't really feel like I needed to add soothe to anything. Normally I do like a odd bit of soothe in there, or sometimes I'll use de-res, sometimes I'll use de-troubler, which I actually ended up using like on 2 or 3 elements when I switched to the R70XA. De-troubler's amazing. For anybody that's not tried it, it's based on the Bark scale, and all you've got to do is just use the de-troubler knob, and you'll see these certain characteristics. And it just, honestly, sometimes, Emrah, I think it does a better job than soothe, honestly.
Yeah.
I know it's working differently, but it's like as a dynamic kind of EQ, it can take out the boominess, it can take out the harshness, the honk. It's just, I just think a lot of things just sound a lot more natural when you put it through. So I was using a lot more of that when I had the R70XA, and me and Ed found that the translation was better in the mid-range and the top end when I used the R70XA. Now, I don't know if it's a thing where I could maybe add in a high shelf, or it's just the characteristics of the headphones. I think that they're fast for like a 180-pound planar, but I think they're still a little bit too forgiving for me for the way that I mix. I'm very sensitive to top end. And, it was just something when I didn't get it right. But I think I got the low end right. However, the thing is with the low end for me is that whilst you've got the detail, you've got the low end extension, the separation between bass and kick isn't an Andy Nanos. Like, it's the best you're going to get at that price, in my opinion. Like, if you want to get the best, then you're going to need something like an Andy Nanos for your low end. Like, the way that I see the FIIOs is that it's going to get you great translation, but it's not going to get you the best translation. If you want the best translation, you're going to need to have the details, the microdynamics, the separation in the low end, the detail in the low end that something like the Ananda Nanos give you. Like, I made my kick a little bit too resonant. I was using the tail in Emrah's kick shaper quite a lot because I wanted to add a little bit more sub-content, and it's a resonant filter he's got in there. But the FIIOs can be a little bit fun and a little bit forgiving in the low end for me, where you've got the low end extension, but like in the nanos scream at me. Like, if I add too much sub, like again, if I can go from like an Emrah's kick shaper plugin, if I go and use the tail, like just a tiny little movement, I can hear too much sustain. It's resonating too much. It's almost like an analogy for me for the FT1s is just kind of like, it's got a little bit of beer goggles on. No, just when like you've had a few whiskies and you're just like, you've taken the edge off it and you're like, yeah, I don't need to worry about that. Yeah, it's fine. You just want to add a little bit low end there. Yeah, add a little bit in there. Yeah, it's fine. Just sit back and enjoy and relax.
You know, just keep saying to you, like, don't give a fuck, bro.
That's it there. I think one thing I will say though is, I know it sounds laid back, right? But again, that's just a negative for me. But however, the imaging is very important because imaging is very hard on headphones. It's something that, like, if you don't get your imaging right, you'll always struggle with your translation. The imaging works really, really well. And the R70X AMX, I didn't really, because it was just a tweak at the end of the day. It was like 10% extra in making little tweaks and soothing everything a little bit and smoothing the edges off. I didn't really have to change much else in terms of panning, in terms of reverb, delays. I find that they're amazing at that, considering that, you don't need crossfeeds with them. Like a headphone at £180 that doesn't need crossfeed for mixing. It's pretty fucking remarkable. They're not as open as Hyphen. Like that's what I miss. Like if you go from FIIO FT1 Pro and you go to the organics, you're like, oh my god, there's the space. There's like everything in front of me. They're a little bit narrowish. I would say for me, they're like in the middle between Hyphen and Odyssey. Odyssey have got like a very kind of condensed soundstage where Hyphen
they are wider than HD 650, for example.
Yeah, they are wider, yeah. But I think separation-wise, it's not like crushed. Like Olo X1, for example, is crushed. It's like everything is like in a tight, compact space, and it's like impossible to judge anything. Where it's like it's to me, it's just enough on anything. It's not too overly wide. It's not too overly impressive. It's just accurate for me, where I can judge depth. I can judge the right amount of reverb. I can judge my panning, how wide to make certain things. And I think that's remarkable that they don't need any crossfeed, and that I could just trust panning decisions on them, because that's even with the Nanda Nanos. Like I struggle panning wise and fucking making reverb decisions because they're so dry and they're so fast. Where I just found that for big picture, I'd say that FT1 Pros are remarkable at £180 for big picture, and especially that you've got the low end, because as much as it's not as detailed and the separation between kick and bass isn't as good as a Nanda Nanos. Again, this is all relative to price. If you want the speed of the Nanos, you want the low-end detail of the Nanos, you need to pay £400, £500. If you want like the overall full big picture where everything just tells you the truth, you need to pay like £800 for like RA Organic.
Yeah, and we're just basically comparing it to the owner of the low-end, right? That's not fair.
It's not fair, I know.
Right? That's not fair.
That's the limitations. Like, if you were to say to me, Paul, what would you use, R70XA or the FIIOs, I would preferably use the R70XA because I can trust the mid-range and the top end. However, what I do like about the FT1 Pro is that I can hear the low subs. So I can get the right sub level. That's what was easy for me when I switched to the R70XA. I'd already done the sub level, the actual level of the subs on the FIIOs. So I already knew that I had the bass and the kick level right. So I knew that when I went to the R70XA, it was just fixing all the other stuff, hearing the microdynamics and soothing stuff and just kind of making it more smooth. So for me, in the way that I hear, the counter translation isn't right for me. But again, it's a train thing. You can train yourself. If you take 6 months with FIIO FT1 Pro, you'll learn how records should sound. You won't have all the details, but if you want to take that step up, then you can then jump into the Hyphen world. You know what I mean? You can go get the Nanos. I mean, you can even go to the RA Organics. You can go to the Odysseys. You can go to fucking, many other headphones in that world. Yeah, unbelievable, eh? What a world we've got now for mixed on headphones, Emrah.
It's incredible. So would you consider them? Would you shortlist them, or would you avoid them, or just go out and buy them? What would you say?
If I had a budget of £200, those would be my choice. If I had a budget of £300, I would genuinely go for the R70XA. However, if I was mixing as much sub-heavy genres as you, I would need to go FIIO FT1 Pro. I would choose the FT1 Pro if I was mixing so much bass-heavy genres like you. I would need to, because I need to hear my low end. So yeah, under £200, I would go out and buy it, because I don't think I've heard anything that at that price bracket. Bear Dynamics, don't even bother, man. Don't even bother like looking at the Bear Dynamics. They have a translation bubble. We were actually thinking about getting the Pro X, because somebody said to me, yeah, the Pro X is different. It's got the low end extension. So I spoke to somebody I know very well and I trust in regards to headphone mixing and stuff. And he was like, yeah, Paul, he went, they are better. They are better than like the D770 and the 1990 and stuff. But he went, it's still got that bear bubble thing. It's still got the image of the bears, how they live in this bubble, and the translation still isn't great, and I still wouldn't recommend them. So I was like, right, okay. They're just the bears have a sound. So I would choose definitely them over Bear Dynamic. I'd choose them over any dynamic on the market under £200. I mean, is there a better headphone under £200, Emrah? I think you said to me you've not found it.
No, man, no.
Is there even another recommendation under £200 as like an alternative to it?
And these are planar magnet. That's That's
I know.
another plus, right?
And no, even as well. Yeah,
It
as you
has
said, it's got the case with it. It's got the fucking balance cable with it as well. Yeah, it's pretty much a no-brainer. I'm trying to think. Is there anything under 200? Is there any? No, what? Hyphemans. No, I think there's maybe Hyphemans in that price, and we're a way to get to that because I'm getting sent the HE 400 SE and the Edition XS, which I think are maybe one of them is maybe around that price bracket. So I'll get a chance to hear them. So we might have a bit of competition on there. But as it stands just now, they are the best headphone for mixing that I've heard under £200.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if you make any profit of them.
I know it's way to say that.
Incredible.
Even the balance cable alone, you're
Yeah,
like,
if they were 300, 350, I would buy them anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible.
We will have links in the description if you're interested, so you could purchase them. If you have them and have mixed on them, again, please let us know your thoughts and your translation results down below. Again, let's create a little bit of discussion down below as always. If you have any questions, feel free to get stuck in the comments down below. If you want to geek even further, then you can become a Patreon member on my Patreon, a paid Patreon member, or a YouTube channel member on my channel. And you can join the Discord. Emrah's on the Discord as well. We have over 60 Discord members, all headphone mixers. And, it's a great journey. We're learning all the time, sharing our mixes, sharing our journey. And I've got tons of little separate channels full of geeky things that basically take a lot of the hard work out for you because I've already put all the hard work in. So if you're interested in that, get stuck in that as well. Links in the description. My name's Paul Third. That's Emrah Celik. And we'll see you again next week.